ask that Dr. Addison Anderson be recognized as an expert in the field of emergency medicine.
Any objection? Okay, the witness will be qualified as an expert in the field of emergency medicine.
Thank you, Your Honor. Why don't you tell me a bit about your experience whenever Guzman came into your case?
Well, first, Mr. Guzman came in, he was unconscious. So, me and my team, as soon as he got through, me and my team performed advanced life support procedures and CPR.
And when was he, or actually, did you complete any records of his stay?
Yes, in the court today, we have the admission record for Mr. Gudnov and also the physician's narrative, which I wrote.
Your Honor, may I approach with Exhibit J and let the record reflect that opposing counsel has been shown a copy?
Very well. Can you hand Exhibit J to the bailiff, please?
And I would also like to publish to the jury.
Well, let's get it into evidence first.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Just hand one of those to the witness, please, bailiff.
Dr.
Not yet,
Anderson,
bailiff, not yet.
Dr. Anderson, can you recognize this document?
Yes, this is the admission record for Mr. Gudnov and also the physician's narrative, which I wrote.
And is it a complete version of this record?
Yes, this is accurate.
Your Honor, now I would like to move that Exhibit J be offered into evidence. Its authenticity has been stipulated.
No, wait, I've got Exhibit J as something a little different. What exhibit do you have in front of you?
It's cut off. I cannot read the exhibit number.
I think the admission record is Exhibit C.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay. Any objection to Exhibit C being admitted into evidence?
No, Your Honor.
Then the Exhibit C will be admitted.
And may I now publish to the jury?
The bailiff may now publish Exhibit C to the jury.
When was Mr. Gudnov admitted?
Mr. Gudnov was admitted July 3rd,
And at what time?
2031.
What was your first what was your diagnosis?
My principal diagnosis is that Mr. Gudnov suffered from trauma to the head and neck, and he was also unresponsive.
Did you examine him at all?
Yes, I did. After I knew he was stable, I examined him and sent him down to radiology for a CT scan and an MRI.
What did those scans show you?
The scan showed two things. First off, the trauma that Mr. Gudnov had suffered from was deep tissue damage, and also the trauma was very consistent with what you see in most strangulation injuries.
Did they show anything else suspicious?
Yes, matter of fact. It was very interesting to see that these findings of the markings on his neck almost looked like a choking method. And also, these findings showed that some of the markings and bruisings were darker and some were faded. This shows that Mr. Gudnov was in fact strangled multiple times.
What was your secondary diagnosis of Gudnov?
The secondary diagnosis was his COPD and emphysema, but that was already pre-existing.
Did those issues bring him into the hospital that night?
No, he was strangled.
Okay, why don't you tell me a bit about your experience with Gudnov while treating him?
Mr. Gudnov was just always a real treat to be around. He would just love to tell these funny stories. But one of the stories he would tell had this bad perspective of Miss Gruber, and they would bring Mr. Gudnov into this panic and sweat and this protective state. He would scream, "Hamburger Hadley, leave my collar alone." He would just really get into that panic and sweat and fear for his life from Miss Gruber.
Were there any other stories that brought anything to attention?
Yes, just his funny stories, but that was the main one that really stuck out to me and made me honestly think of PTSD.
Okay. Do you have an opinion within a reasonable degree of medical certainty of what happened to Mr. Gudnov?
After the evaluation that I gave in the CT scans and the MRI, I know for a fact Mr. Gudnov was strangled multiple times.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, General Carter. Cross-examination.
years ago, I performed the triple bypass surgery on him, but that was about it.
So you had worked with him only once a very long time ago.
Yeah, 3 years.
So you cannot establish a baseline for his cognitive function, can you?
No, but the psychological evaluation which my colleagues performed showed that he only had mild confusion.
Mr. Goodenough's speech was unintelligible during the incident, wasn't it?
Yes, he was kind of a little hard to understand, but he still tried to get out as much information as he could and tried to tell me what really happened.
So the point he was trying to get across was not completely clear, was it?
It was clear to me that he would try to blame Hadley for what had happened to him.
So Mr. Goodenough said that he came up with the concept of a Happy Meal, so the fast food industry stole it from him. Is that correct?
Yes, that was just another effect of his mild confusion he had.
In fact, Mr. Goodenough came up with a new story about his life every day, didn't he?
Yeah, just one of those funny stories he would tell. He was just a funny man.
Hadley was Mr. Goodenough's caretaker, correct?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Hadley was Mr. Goodenough's caretaker.
Yes.
So it wouldn't be unreasonable to call for one caretaker in a time of distress, would it?
Yes, but...
Objection, Your Honor, this is speculation.
Counsel?
Your Honor, let me rephrase my question.
Very well.
Your Honor, I'll move on.
Okay.
You weren't even aware that Mr. Goodenough's outbursts were due to his schizoaffective disorder, were you?
I was unaware of his schizoaffective disorder. I only knew about his COPD, emphysema, and his congestive heart failure he had.
If Mr. Goodenough were to grab his own neck due to his excoriation disorder, the marks would all be the same size, just as how they were found.
Well,
Objection,
actually...
Your Honor, this is also speculation, and also my witness is not aware that Mr. Goodenough did have excoriation or that he had it at all.
Well, you have a point. Go ahead. Is there a response?
He is a medical doctor, and he knows what excoriation is, and he knows what the marks would look like.
Counsel?
It's still speculation, Your Honor.
It is, but you qualified him as an expert, and hypothetical questions are allowed on cross-examination, so I'm going to overrule your objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
If it's all ask that again.
Yes.
If Goodenough were to grab his own neck due to his excoriation disorder, the marks would all be the same size, just as how they were found on his neck.
Well, actually, excoriation is with the picking and the scratching. The markings on his neck that I was able to see obviously showed a choking method, not picking or scratching.
And excoriation also classifies as the grabbing of the neck, right?
Yes, but it was obvious to me it was a choking method that was used for the bruisings on his neck.
You weren't even aware that Mr. Goodenough had been diagnosed with excoriation, were you?
No, I was not.
In fact, you did not have any of Mr. Goodenough's past medical records, did you?
No.
And it is best to have as much of a person's past information in order to voice your expert inference, isn't it?
That's true, but I know for a fact he was strangled.
Any redirect?
Yes. And you are simply, are you Mr. Goodenough, general doctor?
No, I'm just a physician for the emergency room.
And so, would it have pertained to the subject if you had seen him multiple times?
No, not at all.
And you only saw him once, right?
Other than 3 years ago with the surgery I performed.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sustained. Drew, to disregard the question and the answer, you can rephrase your question.
No further questions.
Very
Thank
well.
you.
Any recross?
Yes.
Dr. Anderson, you are not here to testify on your treatment of Mr. Goodenough. You are here to voice your expert opinion on the cause of the marks on Mr. Goodenough's neck. Isn't that correct?
Yes, and I know for a fact that he was strangled.
No further questions.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Dr. Anderson, step down. Then call your next witness.
Call Dr. Tim Gilliard to stand.
Watch your step, doctor.
Can you please state your name? My name is Dr. Tim Gilliard. And what is your current occupation? I'm a clinical forensic psychologist. And can you tell us something about your teaching experience? Well, first, I would actually like to start off with where I got my education, if you don't mind. I got my bachelor's 2 master's degrees at Boston College Graduate School. I got my master's in social work as well as my master's in clinical psychology. And then I decided I wanted to come back down to Tennessee because I love the state so much, and got my PhD at Vanderbilt University.
And can you describe some of your clinical experience?
Yes, ma'am. After getting my degrees, I had been a professor for quite a long time at Vanderbilt University, a professor of psychology, and then I decided I wanted to put my skills to use. So I actually stayed in Nashville, opened up my own clinic, the Gilead Clinic, and I've been running that for quite a long time now, and I enjoy it very much.
Your Honor, may I approach with what has been marked as Exhibit D? Opposing counsel has been provided a copy.
You may hand it to the bailiff.
And we should give it to the witness.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. Dr. Gillard, can you identify that document for me?
Yes, this is my curriculum vitae.
And Your Honor, at this time, I would also like to recognize Dr. Gillard as an expert in the field of clinical forensic psychology.
Any objection?
No, circumcised.
Okay, the witness will be qualified as an expert in the field of clinical psychology.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Gillard, are you familiar with Miss Gruber?
Yes, I was contacted by the local district attorney's office to do a evaluation on Ms. Gruber to determine whether she is mentally competent to be put into a mental institution.
And did you do any research before meeting Miss Gruber?
Yes, I had looked at Hadley's collateral contacts, her police record from July 3rd, as well as her school records, her criminal record, and many further things.
And did this affect your evaluation of Miss Gruber in any way?
Oh, in no way whatsoever. Those are just precautions I take with each of my clients before they come into my office.
Your Honor, may I approach with what has been marked as Exhibit F? Opposing counsel has been provided a copy.
You hand it to the bailiff, and the bailiff will hand it to the witness.
Dr. Gillard, can you identify this document for me?
Yes, this is my evaluation of Ms. Gruber.
And is this authentic?
Yes,
Your Honor, I now move that Exhibit F be moved into evidence. Its authenticity has been stipulated.
Any objection to Exhibit F?
No, that's fine.
Exhibit F is being